Carl Jung said, "Beware of wisdom you did not earn." What if the thing that promises you instant enlightenment is actually the very trap that leads you further away from your true self before you scroll past? Let me ask you something. Have you ever considered that the psychedelic experience might not be a shortcut to transcendence, but a detour into a psychic realm you're not ready to confront? Leave a comment below if this has crossed your mind before. And stay with me until the end, because what you discover about your inner world may surprise you and maybe even protect you. There's a growing hunger in the world today, a thirst not just for meaning, but for transformation, for awakening. And in this hunger, many turn to psychedelic substances, mushrooms, ayahuasca, LSD, DMT, not as a means of escape, but as a portal they hope will carry them closer to the divine, to the self, to some ultimate truth. But I must issue a warning, not from fear, but from knowledge. From decades of watching the human psyche unravel itself in symbols, dreams, neuroses, and suffering, because the psyche is not a playground, it is a temple, and it is also a wilderness. You may meet angels there, yes, but you will also meet beasts, and if you are not properly initiated, if your ego is not grounded, you will not return from that place whole. The unconscious mind is not neutral, is not simply a storehouse of old memories or a canvas for artistic dreams. It is alive, it is symbolic, it is archetypal. And when psychedelics open the floodgates between your conscious mind and the depths of this unconscious terrain, you are not simply watching beautiful colors or abstract thoughts. You are unleashing psychic forces, forces that have the power to elevate you or annihilate you. In my studies of the psyche, I observed what I called the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbols, images, and energies that all humans carry within them. These archetypes are ancient. They are impersonal, and they are powerful. Think of them as primal gods that have lost their names, but not their power. When you encounter them under the influence of a psychedelic, they may appear to you as profound visions. You may feel as though you are meeting God or merging with the universe. But understand this, the experience of transcendence is not always the same as actual transformation. A flood of light is not the same as enlightenment. A moment of ecstasy is not the same as inner integration. To truly grow as a human being, your conscious mind must slowly expand to incorporate these deeper truths. You must digest your darkness, not just visit it. You must build a relationship with the unknown, not simply be swallowed by it. And this takes time. It takes shadow work. It takes confrontation, confession, suffering, and ultimately, humility. One of the most dangerous things that psychedelics can do is deceive you into thinking that you are healed when you are merely high. The visions come fast, the insights pour in, but the ego, if unprepared, cannot hold them. And what cannot be integrated will be repressed, and what is repressed will one day erupt. I am not here to condemn all altered states of consciousness. Dreams, imagination, and even certain mystical experiences are all part of the soul's language, but they must be earned and they must be balanced with a solid ego structure. If not, they can lead to inflation, what I have called psychic inflation, where one identifies not with their human limits, but with a God image. And the moment a human being believes himself to be a god, he becomes possessed by the very thing he thinks he has transcended. Some modern seekers come to psychedelics looking for freedom. But I ask, what kind of freedom are you after? Freedom from your pain, from your story, from the unbearable burden of the self, or freedom to become who you truly are, despite the suffering, despite the shadows, despite the slow and difficult work of becoming whole. The psychedelic may offer the first type of freedom, a temporary escape, a glimpse of eternity. But if you are not rooted in your body, if you have not made peace with your past, if your ego is fragile or inflated, you will confuse the messenger for the message, the symbol for the substance, the experience for the transformation, and you may come back from the journey more fractured than you were before. In my clinical work, I saw patients who were not suffering because they were mentally ill, but because they were undergoing what I called the individuation process. This is the sacred path of the soul growing into its full potential. It involves the confrontation with the shadow, the disowned parts of ourselves. It involves the descent into the unconscious, the wrestling with the archetypes, and the slow, painful emergence of the true self. It is not a psychedelic journey, it is a psychic death and rebirth, and it cannot be bypassed. Yes, some have claimed that psychedelics can catalyze this process, that they can show you your shadow or dissolve your ego in a moment of divine clarity. But I urge you to ask what happens after the vision, who holds your hand when you are left with the ashes of your identity, who helps you rebuild the ego after it has been dismantled, who helps you interpret the flood of symbols, the confrontation with death, the terrifying meeting with the divine mother or father archetype. If you do not have a guide, if you are not in deep therapeutic or spiritual work, you may be left with more confusion than clarity, more trauma than transcendence. The psyche, like the body, has its own immune system. It protects you from too much truth too quickly. Psychedelics can overwhelm this system, forcing the gates of the unconscious open before you are ready. And in doing so, they may unleash contents that you are not equipped to understand, let alone integrate. And make no mistake, what is not integrated will control you from the shadows. You may become addicted to the experience of ecstasy. You may seek the high, not for healing, but for escape. You may start to believe that only in altered states are you truly alive. That only in the realm of vision and wonder do you have value. But this is not individuation. This is spiritual bypassing. This is neurosis dressed up as transcendence. To become whole is to become grounded, rooted, real. It is to bring the contents of the unconscious not just into your awareness, but into your life, into your relationships, into your decisions, into your moral framework. It is not to escape your pain, but to understand it, to find meaning in it, to become responsible for your own transformation. In ancient cultures, initiations into the mysteries were not given lightly. They were earned. The novice would fast, study, suffer, and be guided by elders who knew the terrain. Today, we hand out mystical experiences like candy, with no context, no community, no ethical framework, and we wonder why people come back fractured, anxious, inflated, or worse, possessed by spiritual delusions. The psychedelic opens the door, but what stands behind that door is not always beautiful. Sometimes it is the shadow you've avoided all your life. Sometimes it is the wound you buried in childhood. Sometimes it is the unhealed trauma that demands attention, not adoration. And when this happens, you must ask, are you ready to face yourself? Not your fantasy, not your ideal, but your true self. To go into the unconscious unprepared is like sailing into the sea without a compass. You may glimpse wonders, you may find pearls, but you may also drown, and the sea does not care about your intentions. So I plead with you, respect the psyche, respect the unconscious, respect the fact that there are truths which come only with time, discipline, and humility, not because they are hidden, but because they are holy. If you truly wish to awaken, then begin the work today. Not with a substance, but with a question. What part of me have I disowned? Begin with the shadow. Begin with your fear. Begin with the places you would rather not look. For there lies the true door to transformation, not in visions, but in vulnerability. The self is not a psychedelic vision. It is not a trip. It is a becoming. And becoming takes time. You must descend. You must confront. You must suffer. You must be honest. And slowly, the fragments of who you are will begin to reassemble, not into perfection, but into wholeness. And wholeness is the goal, not bliss. The psyche does not want to be drugged. It wants to be listened to. It wants to be known. It wants to be integrated, and that is the true magic.
Not what you see when you're high, but what you become when you're willing to see yourself as you truly are. And yet, even as we acknowledge the dangers, I do not speak from condemnation, but compassion, because I understand the yearning. I understand what it means to be desperate for meaning, to feel hollow in a world of surfaces, to hunger for direct contact with the numinous. We are all seekers, drawn to the mystery. But the question is not whether the mystery exists, it is whether we are truly prepared to meet it. The numinous experience, what Rudolf Otto called the mysterium tremendum et fascinans, is not something the ego can casually contain. It is awe, it is terror, it is attraction and annihilation wrapped in the same presence. And to encounter it without the structure of myth, ritual, or therapeutic containment is like staring at the sun with naked eyes. You might see for a moment, but what follows is blindness.
What happens when someone touches the divine without the capacity to bear it? They fall into psychosis, or delusion, or worse, into the inflation of believing they are the Messiah, chosen above others. And this is where we find some of the greatest spiritual dangers. Because now the ego is not just inflated, it is armed with the illusion of divine endorsement. I have seen people go into the unconscious and come back not humbled, but grandiose, not integrated, but fractured. And all the while they spoke in spiritual language, wore symbols of peace, quoted sacred texts. But behind the mask, the shadow had hijacked their quest for light. The shadow loves to wear robes of light. And if you do not know your shadow, you will confuse it for your highest self. So I ask again, who is guiding you? Who interprets your visions? Who tells you whether the voice you heard was God or the disguised whisper of your own unmet needs? Psychedelics can be mirrors, but mirrors do not lie. They show you what is there, and sometimes what is there is too much for the ego to bear. There are initiates who have entered these realms under careful preparation, who have gone through the fires and returned with wisdom. But even they would tell you the journey was not blissful, it was not romantic, it was brutal, humbling, terrifying, and most of all, it was real. The difference between a vision that heals and a vision that haunts lies in your readiness, your inner container, your ego strength, your capacity for symbolic thought, for humility, for integration. Do you have the patience to interpret what you see? Do you have the discipline to live what you've learned? Or will you take the vision as an end in itself? Forgetting that the true transformation begins not during the experience, but after it. Psychedelics may show you the mountain, but they do not climb it for you. They may give you a glimpse of the summit, but the real work is in the valley, in your relationships, in your wounds, in your choices. And if you believe you can bypass the valley by flying to the top, you will find that the air there is thin and the ground unstable. Real transformation is earned, slowly, in darkness, through pain and revelation, through the hard labor of waking up without anesthesia. If you truly wish to grow, ask not, what can I experience, but what can I bear? Not what visions can I have, but what truths can I live? The psyche has its own sacred pace. And when we respect that pace, when we walk with it, not ahead of it, we develop something far more valuable than ecstasy. We develop soul. The soul is not impressed by visions. It is impressed by truth, by humility, by integration, by the quiet courage to stay present with your own suffering without needing to escape it. I have seen many attempt to leap into the heavens, only to fall back broken. And in their fall, they are not punished, they are offered a new path, a path of responsibility, a path of truth, a path of soul. You must decide, do you want to escape your story, or do you want to understand it? Do you want to dissolve your ego, or heal it? Do you want a moment of magic, or a lifetime of meaning? These are not easy questions. but they are necessary ones. Because the unconscious does not care about your pleasure. It cares about your wholeness. And wholeness is not found in avoiding your darkness, but in entering it willingly, with courage, and returning with light. The true alchemist is not the one who sees gold, but the one who can transform lead into gold. And the lead is your pain, your trauma, your shadow, your rejected self. If psychedelics are to be used at all, they must be treated not as toys but as tools, not as escape routes, but as sacred thresholds. And those thresholds must be approached with reverence, structure, and guidance. But I say to you, you do not need psychedelics to awaken. The psyche has always been speaking. Through your dreams, through your projections, through your desires, your fears, your symptoms, through your relationships, through the tension between who you are and who you long to become. The world itself is psychedelic if only you pay attention. The colors, the patterns, the synchronicities, the symbols, they are everywhere. The psyche is not hidden in some jungle plant. It is here, now, inside you, around you. In every moment you choose to face yourself honestly. And so, I invite you not to seek the shortcut, but to commit to the journey. Sit with your shadow, listen to your dreams, write down what haunts you, speak what you've been ashamed to speak, dare to name the fear that lives in your heart. And slowly, you will find that the very darkness you feared was never there to destroy you. It was there to awaken you. This is not the easy path, but it is the real one, the lasting one. Psychedelics may open a door, but it is your soul that must walk through it. And the soul does not care how many visions you've had, it only asks, what have you learned? How have you loved? What have you sacrificed for truth to those who feel broken? I say your brokenness is the beginning, not the end. To those who feel lost, I say you are closer than you think. The map is within you. To those who seek light, I say, do not fear the dark. It is there that the seed begins to grow. This is the sacred rhythm, death and rebirth, descent and return, fragmentation and wholeness. Do not rush it. Do not cheat it. Do not try to leap over it. Live it. For in the end, the most psychedelic thing you will ever experience is not a drug-induced vision, but the moment you look in the mirror and see your whole self and finally love what you see. That is the true awakening, not outside you, but within. And it is available to all who are willing to walk the path. Not just to those who trip, but to those who commit. So I leave you with this: don't seek visions, seek meaning. Don't chase highs, chase truth. Don't dissolve your ego, redeem it. And most of all, don't try to escape your pain. Learn from it. The psyche is not a place to visit, it is a place to become. And becoming is the most sacred journey you will ever take. Walk it wisely.